Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah, Asma Saiba. So the topic of my presentation is mathematical wisdoms in the Holy Qur'an. Before I start, I want to give a disclaimer that I am not a scholar and I am not a teacher. I am a student who is fascinated by this universe, by Allah's creations, by the mizan and structure He has created in this universe. And in the next 12 minutes, I merely want to share my learnings on the topic at hand. So from the treasure chest of Holy Quran, the nugget that I have selected is the divine mathematics of Zawj. In Surah Zariyat, verse 50, Allah Ta'ala says, وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. And of everything have we created pairs that you may reflect. Then in Surah Yasin, Allah Ta'ala says, سُبْحَانَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْأَزْوَاجَ كُلَّهَا مِمَّا تُنْبِتُ الْأَرْضُ وَمِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَمِمَّا لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Holy is He who created all things in pairs, of what the earth grows, and of themselves, and what they know, and of what they know not. So before we go further, let's review some of the topics in the two verses. What is Zawj? A Zawj is not just a pair, it's a complementary unit. Something that only becomes complete and productive when joined with its counterpart. When Allah says He created all things in pairs, He does not say most things or living things. He says all things, kullu shayn. Then when Quran uses the word azwaj, it uses it as a universal structural law that governs all domains of this universe. That includes biological, inanimate, and even the spiritual worlds. I'm sorry, I'm going to move this. And in verse, when Allah Ta'ala says, and what they do not know, He points to the discoveries that are yet to be made. So in my research, I found many scientific and non-scientific examples where the principle of Zawj was in play. They appear across physical laws, mathematical structures, biological systems, and even in engineering technologies. We see antimatter, DNA-based pairs, the paired hemispheres of the brains. They were always there. Man just discovered it through curiosity and exploration. And these discoveries hopefully brought man closer to Allah Ta'ala. This is not a coincidence that we see Zawj in play in all different areas of the universe. It is a universal framework suggesting an underlying order by design by Allah Ta'ala. Now, for me, when I came across examples which we do not see as laws of nature, but inventions, I was genuinely perplexed. These are things that are built by human beings. And those scientists, those inventors, they do not set out to prove Quranic verses. They were solving human problems. And yet, every time they went deep enough, they arrived at a pair. And I find it very amazing. Now, as a computer scientist, I am not only more fascinated by technology, but I'm also a bit biased toward it. So I want to take you a little deeper into one of the domains that I'm more familiar with, which is computing and AI. So we live in an era where human has built the most complex technology throughout its history. And the fascinating thing is that this technology, the digital technology, is exactly based on a pair of two words. It's a pair of 0 and 1. Right? The entire digital world, computers, internet, smartphones, artificial intelligence, it all rests on this binary code, a pair of 0 and 1. Now, 0 and 1 itself is just a mathematical, these are just mathematical digits, right? But how does this mathematic turns into a form that can be implemented in digital devices? This is where we find another pair in electronic transistors, because 0 and 1 maps to off and on states of electronic transistors, which makes digital circuits possible. So that's yet another pair, but now in technology and not in mathematics. Moving forward, the binary code gave the vocabulary, but it needed some grammar to turn it into a language to make sense or to build logic. This is where Boolean logic comes in. In 1854, a mathematician, George Boole, argued that all logical reasoning can be reduced to a pair of values, true and false. George Boole was not building a computer. He was trying to understand how humans reason. And he reduced all human logic to 2 values and 3 operations. So the Boolean logic of true and false, again, a pair. And then, of course, he said that all logical reasoning can be mapped into 3 operations. And they all result in a pair of true or false. Now, we are still not there at the computer. Right? It's still a mathematical concept of true and false, or 0 and 1. 83 years later, in 1937, Claude Shannon proved that Boolean logic maps perfectly onto electrical circuits. This was the moment that made the computer possible. Before Shannon, Boolean algebra was pure mathematics. After Shannon's discovery, it became tangible. It became something that could be implemented. He showed that a switch that is on represents true, or 1. A switch that is off represents false, or 0. And this became the basis for all digital circuitry that builds all the computers, still based on a pair. The same pair, 0 and 1, is a symbol in binary, a value in Boolean logic, and a physical state in transistor. 3 different manifestations of one principle of Zoj, and that principle runs through every digital device ever built. Now let's come to another concept of encryption. All digital data, all sensitive data that is either stored on your hard drives or it's going through the internet has to be encrypted. And the data encryption is called public cryptography, public key cryptography. And encryption, the way it is done is encryption uses an inseparable pair of mathematical keys. A public key that is shared with everyone, and a private key that only the receiver has. Data is encrypted with public key and decrypted with private key. The 2 keys are generated together from the same mathematical operation, and together they make the encryption possible. Again, 2 values, 2 entities, a pair which, if separated, will break the whole encryption process. Now we come to artificial intelligence. Right? Artificial intelligence is built with neural networks, and it is directly modeled on the paired architecture of human brain. Brain processes information through connected neurons. A neural network processes information through connected layers. Right? A medical AI device that is reading your X-ray uses neural networks. Siri, understanding your voice, is using neural networks. A self-driving car recognizing a pedestrian is using neural network. And yes, ChatGPT, when it answers your questions, is also using neural network. Different applications, but the same foundation. Now, AI uses pairs in multiple ways. It has pairs of input and output. It takes input in the input layer of this layered architecture that you see on the screen, and it gives output at the output layer after manipulation and after performing the logic. It has a pair of encoder and decoder. When you ask a question from ChatGPT, your text is encoded into digital, into binary code. And then after manipulation and after processing, what you get back is text, which is decoded from the binary code. Right? Then it has a pair of true and false when there is a decision to be made for fault detection or in medical AI. Is it a tumor or is it not a tumor? Any decision that is made, the answer is a binary, a true or a false. We live in the time of image generation and deepfake. There is a pair of generator and discriminator, and it's called GANs, basically to detect whether this image is real or fake. There is a pair that actually allows us to do that. And then finally, artificial intelligence also learns in pairs. There's a forward pass, which is called a prediction, paired with a backward pass, or error correction. Every neural network learns by iterating this pair millions of times. Now, from these brief examples, what can we conclude? What we can conclude is Allah Ta'ala has created this universe with mizan and structure, and commanded man to explore it. And when man explores it honestly, understands it, they can turn these discoveries into inventions that can benefit humankind. And in the end, I take you back to verse 37 of Surah Yasin, when Allah Ta'ala says, and of what they do not know, the verse is not in past tense. The verse remains open. It is a standing invitation to the next generation to reflect and explore and hopefully bring about more value to mankind. Jazakallah.